I want to welcome you to the first episode of the Proof of Concept, Season 1. I am Jared Derival, and this is my Proof of Concept. Since this is the first episode in the first season, I think it is necessary for me to introduce myself and introduce the idea of the Proof of Concept podcast. I am Jared Derival. I am a career technologist. I started my IT and cybersecurity career when I was 19 years old, and today I am 38 years old. That makes it over 18 years. In the past 18 years, I have worked as a computer technician, administrator, engineer, cybersecurity architect, and head of cybersecurity. Today, I work entirely as a consultant. I advised IT and cybersecurity executives on how to best secure their IT infrastructure, and I provide consultation to government agencies as well on latest technologies in next-generation cyber defense. I have a bachelor's degree in computer engineering from Florida International University and a master's degree in computer engineering and in cybersecurity from the same university. I am certified by Palo Alto, Cisco, Checkmate, and many others. And I have worked for various institutions, notably Insight Enterprise, not Insight Global, Insight Enterprise, as a network security architect. Seminole Tribe of Florida, that's the tribal government that owns the Hard Rock Hotel and Casinos, as first network security architect and head of cybersecurity. I participated in the design and implementation of the Bang Energy Drink network, and I have worked as a government subcontractor for Response Force One. So, folks, enough of that. But what about the podcast? Why is this necessary? What's the idea of the proof of concept? I'd like to find a way to consolidate my experience and make the information that I have collected over the years available to anyone who finds interest or use for it. The proof of concept will be divided into 3 segments. The first segment will be called Executive Briefing. In this segment, we will brief executives on latest technologies, latest design, and how to best secure the IT and cybersecurity infrastructure. The second segment is Technical Deep Dive. In this segment, we will speak directly to IT professionals and cybersecurity professionals of any level. We will go real deeply into different concepts and we'll test new technologies. Think about Palo Alto, Cisco, Checkpoint, Fortinet, Zscaler, etc. And in the last segment, which is called the Cyber Job Alert, in this segment, we will provide facts about the latest trend in the IT and cybersecurity job market. We will advise IT and cybersecurity professionals on how to best position themselves to attract their dream jobs. Folks, these are the 3 segments of the proof of concept. We will publish this podcast every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern on jaredderival.com and on all of the Jared Derival socials. That will be a live broadcast. Right after this live broadcast, we will cut the episode into those 3 segments that we talked about earlier so that it can be more easily consumed by the different groups of IT and cybersecurity professionals. What I mean by that, executives will consume the executive brief, technical resources will consume the technical deep dive, and job seekers will consume the cyber job alert. If you want, you can subscribe so that these specific segments can be delivered to your email every week. Go to jaredderival.com and subscribe there. You can choose whether you want to subscribe as an executive, a technical resource, or a job seeker. I will also have guests, and you can be one of the guests, where you participate in the information dissemination. That means you're an IT professional and we have vetted your background and we know what you can offer and you can contribute to the conversation. I'll happily have you as a guest. But you can also be an audience member. That means you want to participate in the conversation by asking questions. If you're a guest, you'll be on video just like I am right now, and we'll have a conversation. If you're an audience member, no one will see you. But when you ask your question, people will hear your question and we will give live answers. We will show your name as well as you ask the question. Folks, I am excited about what's coming. If you would like to participate either as a guest or as an audience member, send me an email to jared@jaredderival.com. That is jared@jaredderival.com. This is the first episode of the first season of the Proof of Concept, It is exciting. We'll be right back. All right, that was a grand and glorious introduction to the first episode of season 1 of the Proof of Concept. Now let's get started. Executive brief. In this executive brief today, we talk about the importance of next generation firewall in a zero trust architecture. We will demystify and make non-buzzwordy the word or the concept of zero trust. A lot of people think of this as a sales print, a buzzword, but it is more than that. It is a true concept. Plenty of institutions are moving towards a zero trust without knowing, and others think that they're moving towards a zero trust when they're not really moving there. So what is the zero trust architecture? Where did it come from? Why is it important? Why is it one of the most relevant concepts in IT and cybersecurity today? The zero trust architecture was created by a researcher whose name is John Kendevag while he was working at a place called Forrester Research. These folks conduct research, as the name suggests. There he had an idea to change the way we go about establishing trust on the network. Now, after Forrester Research, he went to work for Palo Alto, where he worked from 2017 to 2021. And what's the idea? What was the idea, right, that John Kendevag had when he invented the zero trust concept? Well, at that time, and even today, we used to think that the people who are on the network, the employees, they're just the trusted people. We used to divide the network into two zones or two segments, the trust zone and the untrust zone. We trusted the people who work for us, and we don't trust the people who don't work for us. We trust the employees, we trust those who are inside of the building, and we don't trust those who are outside of the building or on the internet. Even today, if you buy a Palo Alto firewall or probably any next generation firewall, they come with two zones, the trust and the untrust zone. And I think that needs to be updated because we no longer think about trust in the same way. And John Kendevag was at the start of this revolution when he created the zero trust concept. A lot of people think zero trust means, oh, we no longer trust anybody. We're not going to trust anybody anymore. We're not going to trust the employees. We're not going to trust anybody. But that's not what the idea is. Now, John realized that trust was the biggest vulnerability. Yet, we have to trust people. We can't conduct business without trust. And trust introduces the biggest risk to the environment. Now, how do we manage that, right? His idea is instead of trusting those who work for us and not trusting those who don't work for us, we should do it differently. We should go about trusting the right person at the right time with the right data. But how do we do that? You see, those terms, those words, those key words that I'm mentioning here, trusting the right person. That means who we are trusting at the right time, when we're trusting them, with the right data, with what are we trusting them, and how are we establishing this trust? This is the idea of the zero trust. It is not don't trust anyone. It is perfecting the trust. Let's perfect the trust. Let's move towards a more perfect trust. And so I think a better way to say zero trust, in my humble opinion, is perfect trust. Why? Is perfect trust a more appropriate term than zero trust? That's because zero trust tends to confuse a lot of people. Those who are first introduced to this concept, once they hear zero trust, they say, oh, we're not supposed to trust anybody anymore. Think about the executive who hears zero trust. He says, okay, moving forward, no more trust. We're not going to trust anybody anymore. Now, this creates confusion and it creates friction as well. The engineer or the architect or the administrator, the person or the people who maintain the network, once they hear, oh, we're moving towards a zero trust, they panic. They think, oh, they're not going to trust us anymore. They're going to take all of our access away. But that's not what this means. And so everyone started to misunderstand. Zero trust, trust no one. But instead, zero trust means perfect the trust so that you can trust the right person and do not trust the wrong person. And for you to trust the right person, you need to be able to identify the right person. And for you to trust them with the exact data that they need to be trusted with, you need to be able to identify the different types of data that you have as well. And you need to have a way to give them access to that data. This is the how. And you need to be able to determine as well when they need access to that data. When you bring all of these together under one umbrella, one architecture, you have a more secure network, a more perfect trust, and not zero trust, because you have to trust people. You have to trust people to build the servers. You have to trust people to build the network, to maintain the network. You have to trust consultants. You have to trust contractors. You have to establish different types of trust or different levels of trust with different groups of people and entities. But without a means for you to improve the way you're trusting them, and without a way to make the difference between the different levels of trust that you have to establish for you to remain in business, you create chaos and introduce greater risk to your environment. Now, how do you do that? Well, a lot of people think that you can buy something. I heard people say, oh, we buy Zscaler, zero trust, or we buy whatever, zero trust. We're going to enable Zscaler. That's not the way it works. There's not one vendor, one technology, or one thing, or one tool that creates the zero trust. It's a concept. The zero trust itself doesn't exist. You see, regardless of the technology that you have, whether it's older, newer, or cutting edge, you still can achieve the zero trust. All you need to do is to identify what you're trusting people with. What is the most important asset of your institution? And give a name to that asset. In the idea of John Kendervag, zero trust, or my idea, perfect trust. Well, really, it's not my idea. It's my take on the zero trust. I'd prefer to say perfect trust. In the perfect trust idea, what we will do is we will identify the most valuable asset. And John Kendervag calls this, or the inventor of zero trust calls this the DAS. That stands for data, asset, access, and services. This is the most important thing, and we endeavor to protect that and to only allow the right people to have access to it. Now that we have identified the DAS, the data, asset, access, and services, we need to identify who needs to have access to it. You see, as technology evolves, the DAS also evolves. In the who, the people, they also evolve. And here's what I mean by that. It used to be that your data lives in your data center. That's a no-brainer. Data center, data. Data lives in data centers. And this used to be a building, right? You build a data center, you have 4 walls or whatever, however many number of walls that you have, and you have your racks, you have your servers, you have your whole infrastructure there. And you maintain the data inside of this environment. You put all kinds of locks all around so that people don't break through, etc., etc. But now it's no longer that way. The data doesn't have to live in one geographical location. It doesn't even have to live in one single country. It can move around. You think about when you have a virtual environment that's built with VMware, and you have this feature that's called vMotion, right? It can have a number of physical servers. One might be in New York, another in Atlanta, another in Paris, another in London, and maybe one in Nigeria, right? All of these servers come together. With the vMotion, your virtual servers, see those physical servers that I talked about, they're inside of your data centers. And the virtual servers that you establish on those physical servers, they move around those different servers. You see, right now, your server might be in London. In an hour later, it's in Nigeria. Your data might have been in London now. In 30 minutes later, it's in New York. You see, as the data moves, the DAS moves like that. You need to make sure that you are moving with it. But what are you moving with the DAS? It is the system that protects the DAS. And we call this system microperimeters. We build microperimeters around the DAS. So once we identify the DAS, we identify who needs access to the DAS, who we're going to trust with the DAS, and at what level we're going to trust them with the DAS, what part of the DAS we need to trust them with, because I may need access to this piece of data and this other person needs access to another piece of data. But both pieces of data live in the same DAS. So you're not going to trust me with what he or she needs access to. You're going to trust me with what I need access to, and the other people with what they need access to. So you need to give each person the right level of access to the DAS. Now, you need to build micro perimeters around the DAS so that you can identify the people before they get access to DAS, and you can move them exactly in the direction that they need to go inside of the DAS. So, what are the micro perimeters and how do you build them? The micro perimeters, where do you start? I would say you start with next generation firewalls. Think about the scenario where you have your servers that move around between London, Nigeria, New York, Miami, etc. You can put next generation firewalls around these servers. In next generation firewalls that move with these servers. As your server moves to London, your micro perimeter is in London as well. That means your next generation firewall is in London as well. And you see, you no longer need physical servers anymore because 65% of the corporate data today lives in the cloud. So your DAS is also moving not just within the physical locations where your business operates, but also into the cloud as well. So you need to have micro perimeters that can move with the DAS even when it's moving in the cloud, in environments where you don't have physical control. So starting with next generation firewall puts you ahead of the curve in the sense that they can move around with your DAS anywhere your DAS moves. And the next generation firewalls, they're not just physical devices. If you're in the Azure cloud, you can have them in the Azure cloud as well. If you are in AWS, Google Cloud, or wherever your DAS or your data happens to be, you can put micro perimeters there built with next generation firewalls. But next generation firewalls, the only things that you need to build your micro perimeters. Your micro perimeters are like fences that you put around your most valuable asset, your data, asset, access, and services. Now, those fences are not just built with next generation firewalls. Next generation firewalls can do a lot for you. And in most cases, next generation firewalls are all you need. But there are other types of technologies that you can leverage to increase your security posture as you move towards a zero trust network architecture. So if we summarize the zero trust architecture, we'll say it is not an idea that invites you to trust no one, because you have to trust people. For you to have an IT and cybersecurity infrastructure, you can't build it alone. You have to trust different types of people. But the zero trust architecture helps you perfect that trust by identifying the most valuable asset that you have, what you're protecting, which can be called the data, asset, access, and services, or in short, the DAS. And you need to identify who you want to trust with the DAS. That's who, the people. And then you need to, the DAS is the what, the who is the people. You need to identify when you want to trust them with the people, with the DAS, and how you're going to allow them to transit into the DAS. And how do you do that? You do that through an architecture. The architecture needs to be the beginning of the zero trust journey, or in my opinion, the perfect trust journey. I think if we start calling this thing perfect trust, it will create less friction, as executives will understand that they're not just removing trust, they're perfecting the trust. In technical resources will now understand as well that they're not just cutting their throat or cutting their wings and taking all of their accesses away, they're just perfecting that, making sure that the right person has the right access. I think that's a good introduction for the first episode of the proof of concept. We can go real deep into that, and we're going to go real deep into it. We're going to talk about the importance of the next generation firewalls in the zero trust architecture, and we're going to give technical deep dives into this. But for now, it's an introduction. And so if you'd like to participate in this conversation and ask questions and get your questions answered, you can send me an email at jared@jaredderival.com. That is jared@jaredderival.com. Eventually, there's going to be a link on jaredderival.com where you can fill out a form, and we'll invite you when we're recording this. There are two ways you can participate. You can participate as a guest, in which case there will be a deeper vetting to understand who you are, et cetera, et cetera. And if you want to participate as an audience member, they won't see you. They will hear the question you ask. If you participate as a guest, that means you're going to participate. You're going to contribute to the conversation and help us, right? Provide quality information. For that, we need to know who you are and what type of information that you're going to be able to contribute to the conversation. But folks, let's stop right here. Next segment is going to be the technical deep dive. And in this technical deep dive, I'm going to play a video that I recorded earlier that introduces the three leaders of next generation firewalls. That's Palo Alto, Fortinet, and Checkpoint. In that order of importance for me. Palo Alto, Fortinet, and Checkpoint. Not order of importance, I would say order of leadership, right? Palo Alto has been a leader for the past decade or more. Fortinet is well respected, and Checkpoint is well respected as well. And Gartner classifies those three as the three leaders of next generation enterprise firewall. Cisco is not a leader, it's a challenger. And plenty of others are in other segments, but the leaders are Palo Alto, Fortinet, and Checkpoint. In the next segment, we introduce those three firewalls that we have, next generation firewalls that we have in our cyber defense research lab, in that we're going to use in this first season of the proof of concept, which will talk in depth about the importance of next generation firewalls in a zero trust architecture. We'll be right back. Welcome to another episode of the Proof of Concept podcast. I'm Jared Dorival, and I'll be your host today. As you already know, I am a technologist with over 15 years of experience. I have worked as an engineer, architect, administrator, and head of cybersecurity. Today, I will be talking to you about the gears that I have behind of me. I'm extremely excited about that because right next to me here, I have nearly 10 pounds of network and cybersecurity gears. Well, it's not the physical weight that matters. It is rather their ability to disrupt cybersecurity attacks. We are talking about the three best next generation firewalls ever made by mankind. And that's a FortiGate firewall, a Checkpoint firewall, and a Palo Alto firewall. For the longest, I've had the dream of putting these three in my cyber research lab and go deep into their ability to secure networks, both on-premise and in the cloud, and secure endpoints as well. But I never had the opportunity to do that. It's time consuming. And having these absolute next generation, that's the latest Fortinet firewall, latest Checkpoint, and latest Palo Alto. As you already know, Palo Alto just came out with the PA400 line, right? That's a line that accommodates small and medium-sized businesses. Same thing is for Checkpoint and for FortiGate. These companies nowadays, they have decided to now resize their security appliances so that they can attract more customers. Because at some point, Palo Alto had few sizes, and so someone who didn't have the need for a big firewall or a super small firewall, they didn't have an option for something in the middle. So now that they come out with the PA440 or the PA400 line, they position themselves to provide the same abilities, absolute same abilities of the bigger firewalls. They provide that now in a smaller box. Now we're gonna go dive into their data sheet. We're going to take a brief view of how they present these next generation firewalls. What you're looking at here in the FortiGate is it's slightly different than all the other ones. And here's what I mean by that. The lights, they turn on in the front for the FortiGate. You have here 5 ports, and you also have a dedicated Win 1 and Win 2 and DMZ port. And you have 2 other ports that I'll find out what they are. You have a console port here, and you have a USB port and your power. They come with basic accessories, power, and console cables. I think all of them come with that, and even an Ethernet cable. Now, the Checkpoint also is very robust, and it is all of them. These are the 3 best firewalls in the market today, right? Checkpoint, Palo Alto, and Fortinet. Not exactly in that order, but the difference between the Checkpoint and the rest of them is that the Checkpoint itself, it combines multiple different features into one. You have a FortiGate, it's a firewall, and maybe a switch and a router, but mostly a firewall. You have a Palo Alto, same thing. You have a firewall that can robustly secure your network, defend you 24/7, and maybe a switch if you want, and a router if you want as well. But this, my friend, goes beyond that. It is not just a firewall. It is a firewall. It is also a switch, a router like those two, but more than that, it is an access point. You can have your Wi-Fi directly on this firewall. In addition to that, this firewall does not simply rely on Ethernet to be its internet source. It also has a SIM card slot where you can insert a SIM card. If you see this little line here in white, that's what you can read here is SIM card. You pop this out, unscrew this, and you slide in a SIM card, right? So that you can have internet connectivity through cellular, right? So if you have good cellular signal in your area, think about Cradlepoint, what Cradlepoint used to do. Checkpoint now does that in style with flying colors. I think it's time to peel this little plastic up in the front. Oh, that feels so good. Well, these things, I've had them for a few months now in the research lab, but comes a time now for me to implement them again from scratch. I've implemented them before so that I can get used to the different features that they have, but we're gonna redo that so that I can give you the opportunity to participate in this implementation of these three beasts side by side. Now, to get back to the Checkpoint, it has 4 Wi-Fi antennas and 2 LTE antennas, or 2 cellular antennas, right? These capture your cellular signals, and these, they emit Wi-Fi signals. So who can benefit from this? This is an all-in-one device. You have this, you have everything you need, right? You have here 8 ports to connect your Ethernet. You want to connect your laptop, your printer, or camera, and all of that. You have all of these here. And you have a dedicated WAN port. You have 2 dedicated DMZ ports. And one of them is a fiber optic and the other is Ethernet. You have a console, USB-C console port, and a USB 3.0 port as well. You have a power. Obviously, all of them, they need power for them to function. And the lights turn on over here on the Checkpoint. Now comes the granddaddy of them all, the Palo Alto. Those who know that we are in the presence of greatness when we talk about a Palo Alto. Ooh, I feel so excited and so grand having a Palo Alto, brand new, next generation, state-of-the-art Palo Alto in my research lab. Folks, that's big deal. You may not understand what I'm talking about, but this, my friend, is real big deal. There's nothing like a Palo Alto in this world. Mankind has never created a security device, a cybersecurity device that is more powerful than a Palo Alto. Now, not to say that these are not powerful. They are the 3 best in the world today. Palo Alto, Fortinet, and Checkpoint. That's the order that I would put it in, but that's up for debate. But let's go through the appearance of the Palo Alto. It presents itself, unlike all of the others, in a very mean fashion. You look at this and you see that this means business. It's heavy. All of them are fanless. They're here in my studio and you never hear a thing. Palo Alto comes with 8 ports as well. You have a dedicated console port and a dedicated management port. That's where you start configuring it the first time. And here you can configure these to be whatever you want, HA, and use them as switches, and etc., etc. It doesn't have a dedicated WAN port, unlike the others. The Checkpoint has a dedicated WAN port. The Fortinet has a dedicated WAN port as well, DMZ and all of that. But this itself, it doesn't present itself in this, fashion. It's a mean machine. There's no difference between this and a Palo Alto that you can buy for $1 million. The difference comes in the size. The size here, not only the physical size, but also the compute size. How many sessions this can process simultaneously in a second, the firewall throughput, etc., etc. We're gonna go through all of these things as we dive more deeply into this proof of concept of the best 3 next generation firewalls in the world. Folks, I'm excited. About 10 pounds of cybersecurity gears right next to me. I feel grand and powerful. So look at my screen here. I am showing you the 2022 Gartner Magic Quadrant. And what this says here is that the leaders of network firewalls are Fortinet, Palo Alto Networks, and Checkpoint Software Technologies. These 3 beasts standing right next to me. In the presence of these, no one can attack me. I'm talking about my cyberspace. Knowing how to configure these the best way possible, right? Having them is not enough. You've got to know how to architect them to get the best out of them. And that's what we're going to do in this proof of concept. And if you want, you can participate in that by reaching out to me through my website, jaredderval.com. And whatever feature that you want to test in these, I'll do that for you and provide the result. Over here, you're seeing the leaders. Fortinet, Palo Alto, and Checkpoint. These are the 3 best firewalls ever made by mankind, in the leaders in the current cybersecurity landscape. The challengers are Cisco, Alibaba Cloud, Juniper, and Huawei. If time permits, we'll probably touch on at least one of the leaders, and maybe Cisco, because we still have some respect for Cisco as the god of routing and switching, but not the god of firewalls today. But it used to be. Today it's not. Now, I'm going to go briefly over the spec sheets. I'll start with Palo Alto. Look at the line of PA400s. It starts with PA410, 415, and it continues to PA440, which is the one that we have here. You also have PA445, 450, and 460. The difference between these is just the compute and how much data that they can process at any given time. Now, there's a lot of advertisement that Palo Alto puts here in this spec sheet about how great these devices are, but we don't really care about advertisement. We really care about the meat and potatoes, and here's where you can find that. In this table right here, performance and capacities, we're looking at the 440s, right? The 440. Look at the firewall throughput. It starts at 1.6 or 1.2 gigs per second. Threat prevention here starts at 685 megs per second. IPsec VPN throughput 930 megs per second, 0.93 gigs per second. Max sessions is 64,000. In the new sessions as well per second is 12,000. That's a small firewall by many standards, right? This could fit easily in a law office, in a doctor's office, in many other businesses that don't have the need to pass more than 64,000 or to hold more than 64,000 simultaneous sessions, or more than 12,000 new sessions per second. 12,000 new sessions per second, that's huge. But we're going to put this to the test and find out what that really means in the real world. The one that we have here, PA440, is bigger than that. And you can see max sessions is 200,000. Here you are entering another league of that same line of PA440, small and medium-sized business firewall. And keep in mind as well, the security features are exactly the same. What's different is the capacity of the firewall. New sessions per second, 37,000 here. That's a much bigger firewall. One could say that the size doubles once you enter the PA440. And from that point on, it remains about the same for the 445. What's the difference here in the 445? Not much of a difference that we can see here. Okay, here comes the 450. Big difference, right? You go from 2.2 gigs per second to 3 gigs per second, right? That's firewall throughput. And if you for your IPsec VPN, you go from 1.7 gigs to 2.2 gigs. That's very big. Many institutions, big institutions that have over 500 employees, don't have the need to saturate the firewall like this, or even the 440. The 460 is an even bigger firewall. To put this into perspective, we should probably compare this with a PA850. That used to be a mid-sized firewall, Palo Alto firewall, when you only had the PA220, right? If PA220 wasn't enough for you, your next firewall in line would be PA850. The PA850 was probably a $17,000, $20,000 firewall. Okay, side by side here we have PA440 or PA400 line and PA800 line. So the PA800 line had PA820 and the PA850. Okay, so look at this here. The PA820 is about the same size as the smallest PA400, slightly bigger when you account for the threat prevention throughput. That's 780 here, and this is 685 megs. When you account for the IPsec, that's 140. Let's go to the PA440. The PA440 is bigger than the PA820. The PA440 is comparable to the PA850. You see that? IPsec VPN throughput 1.8 gigs, and over here in the PA440, you 1.7 gigs. Your max sessions used to be 192,000 sessions. In the PA440, it's 200,000. Your new sessions per second used to be 13,100. In the PA850, over here in the PA440, it is more than twice the amount. Okay, so what you see here is you get the mid-size PA400 firewall. You have about the same, if not more, capabilities than the former PA850. Understand that the PA850 is not end of life or end of support. It's still a firewall that is supported by Palo Alto, but it's older. PA400 is much newer. So folks, understand what I'm saying to you here. You have a firewall here that's smaller than the PA450 in size, but much more powerful in terms of the capacities of that firewall, especially if you go to the highest one of the line, PA460. All right, that's it for Palo Alto. Let's quickly look into the Quantum. That's Checkpoint. Here we have multiple flavors that this can come in. In the flavor that we have here is this. You have the Quantum 1570, and that comes with wired Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi plus LTE. That's a new flavor here. and that's the one that we have in our studio here. The capacity of that firewall, understand that it had 8 gig Ethernet ports. It has one gig Ethernet WAN port, and it also has one gig SFP DMZ port. You have that SFP DMZ port here. You also have an Ethernet DMZ port. All right, folks, you have your Wi-Fi, you have your LTE. We'll touch on these as we go deeper into this proof of concept. Here comes the FortiGate 70F. That's the one that we have in our research lab here. That's a brand new FortiGate firewall. What's the capacity of this firewall? The FortiGate 70F, my friend, comes with 5 RJ45, that's Ethernet gig interfaces. You have here 2 40 links, no wireless interface. You have 1 USB port, but let's talk about the firewall capacity. You have IPS throughput 1.4. Compare that with your PA 440 that you have here. Threat prevention here is 1 gig, but firewall throughput is 2.2. That's about twice as the FortiGate. You look at your next generation firewall throughput, 1 gig for the FortiGate, and you have 1 gig for the PA as well. You look at your threat prevention here, throughput that 800 megs. Your threat prevention here for the PA 440 is 1 gig. That's slightly better for the Palo Alto. All right, we're gonna have the time to go deeper into these. Look at your IPsec VPN throughput here, 6.1 gig. What does that mean? That means you can have IPsec tunnels that are passing much more traffic than you can pass with the Palo Alto firewall. Folks, I'm excited about what's coming here into the research lab. We have just unveiled the 3 most powerful next generation firewalls in the world, and as classified by the Gartner Magic Quadrant, you are in the presence of greatness. The 3 leaders in network security. We're going to put them to the test in our cyber defense research lab and test all of the features that these come in. We have them fully licensed, and there's nothing we cannot test. We're going to test them all. Stay tuned and follow this proof of concept of next generation firewalls. Here we're testing Palo Alto, Fortinet, Checkpoint in the next few episodes. Thank you. I'm Jared Derval. See you next time. Welcome back. In this final segment of the proof of concept, we bring the fact about what the jobs are in the US economy when it comes to IT and cybersecurity. In this segment, we focus on helping IT and cybersecurity professionals find their dream jobs and get the training that they need as well so that they can attract, retain, and maintain their dream IT jobs. Let's first start with the facts. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics reported that the US economy grew by 187,000 jobs in August. And some of these jobs are IT and cybersecurity jobs. Genco and Associates, they published their latest report. Remember that Genco and Associates, they're a research firm, and they publish twice a year. That's once in January and the other in July. They reported that there are about 4.2 million individuals working in IT and in cybersecurity today in the United States. Hiring of IT pros has recovered from the recent big tech layoffs. That's published in the Genco Associates CIO and IT Manager newsletter. Computer World reports that 70% of employers surveyed this year plan to increase technical team headcount over the next 12 months. That's good news for IT and cybersecurity job seekers. There's new data from the IT firm Experis that found that more than 3/4, that is exactly 78% of IT organizations reported difficulty finding qualified tech workers. That is a 17-year high. Computer World also reported that the mean compensation for IT pros in 2023 is now $101,323 for IT pros in large enterprises. It even tops $102,000. And for executives, the average salary is $180,000. Genco Associates also reported that on average, IT salaries rose in 2022 by 5.61%, and it is expected to increase by as much as 8% this year of 2023. Now, here are the highest paid jobs in IT and cybersecurity. You have directors who get paid on average $235,000, executives on average $231,000, and that's followed by architects who get paid on average $196,000, leads who gets paid on average $190,000, and managers on average $188,000. Now, understand that this is average. Some people get paid more, some people get paid less. I've seen architects and engineers who get paid $250,000, $300,000, and I've seen others who get paid way less than that. There's Manpower Group that reported that nearly 4 out of 5 employers globally reported this year that they have difficulty finding qualified IT and cybersecurity talents. GenCo Associates, again, reported that there are about 120,000 more IT and cybersecurity jobs than there are professionals. Now, this was the fact. Let's dive into what this fact means for us. 3 things you need to keep in mind. Number 1, the big tech layoffs that we experienced earlier in this year, where plenty of companies, high-profile companies like Google and others were reporting that they're laying off IT employees. That's over. And there are more jobs than there are IT professionals today. Salaries have increased, and it is expected to increase by as much as 8% this year. On average, that means if you were making $100,000 last year, this year you likely will make $108,000. Now, most employers have difficulty finding qualified IT professionals. That is, 78% of the employers reported difficulties finding qualified IT professionals. What does that mean in simple terms? Finding people who are exposed to next generation technologies has gotten even more difficult. And why is that? That is because it is very hard. People may not know that in the IT field, to get your hands on real technologies, cutting edge technologies, is a very difficult thing. It's a very difficult thing because they don't sell these to individuals. If you want to buy a next generation firewall, you can't just show up at Best Buy, Walmart, anywhere and buy yourself a next generation firewall such as Palo Alto, Cisco, etc. You have to work for an institution, and the institution has to have the budget, etc., etc. And when that technology is purchased, most institutions will not allow someone who doesn't know how to operate the technology to operate this technology. And so people have difficulty learning emerging technologies. And I think the information technology vendors, they do not make that easier either. And here's what I mean by that. If you want to test out any system today, it is very difficult. And for someone who is new to IT or someone who's looking at IT from a glass wall, who would like to penetrate through, it is hard for them because they don't know where to start. Think about someone like me who has a very deep connection with some of the biggest vendors that you can think about. And sometimes it is even hard for me to get access to some technologies, for me to try them. And we're doing this proof of concept right now. We have real firewalls. In the next proof of concept that we're doing, we're going to evaluate the 3 biggest network access control systems. And to get these systems, for me to test them and evaluate them, it is not an easy thing for me, let alone for someone who doesn't even know about the names of these systems. And you see, this is the primary problem of the IT and cybersecurity field. And that's probably part of the reason why it is difficult for employers to find qualified candidates. Because for candidates to be qualified, they need to be exposed to the technologies. And for them to be exposed to the technologies, they need to have a job. And the job is not going to hire them unless they have access to these technologies. How do we resolve this problem? I think it is time now for IT professionals and for employers, IT employers, and for technology vendors to come together. And by IT professionals, I mean those who have achieved the highest levels of competency in the field. And by IT employers, I mean anyone who has an IT team, any company that has IT professionals and cybersecurity professionals working for them. And by IT vendors, I mean any vendor that has a worthwhile technology that they sell on the market. Think about Cisco, that leads the routing and switching segment of information technology and information security. Aruba, that leads the wireless. Think about Palo Alto, that leads the security. Next-Generation Firewalls, cloud security. Palo Alto leads that, and followed by Fortinet and Checkpoint. And we can name any number of vendors, Zscaler, that's making big progress in zero trust technologies. All of these vendors and others need to come together with the employers and with the seasoned IT and cybersecurity professionals to put all of their expertise at the disposals of those who want to enter the field. It is a very hostile field to enter. I know this firsthand because it took me 9 years trying to penetrate through this field. I worked for 9 years as an entry-level IT professional. During those years, I attended college. I earned a bachelor's degree. That took me 5 years. A bachelor's degree in computer engineering, and then a master's degree in computer engineering and in cybersecurity. Overall, I spent 7 years in college, and I spent 9 years working entry-level jobs in IT before I was given my first real job that paid me top dollars. You see, most people will have a similar experience, and plenty of others will get discouraged because the very entry-level jobs that they do, not only are they backbreaking, but they can't support their lifestyle. And so they'll find something else to do. We will continue to lose good people, very intelligent people who could help resolve the IT skills gap. We will continue to lose them because we don't have a clear path for them to enter the field. We don't have a way for them to have their hands on real technologies. We need to make this easier. And I am on a mission to help solve that. And here's how I do that. I build a complex network, and I give entry-level IT professionals access to this network. I gather a team of qualified and experienced engineers and architects, and I invite them to come and teach those entry-level professionals on real systems, real Palo Alto, real Fortinet, real Checkpoint, real VMware, real Microsoft servers, real Azure, real Fortinet, real ClearPass, real Cisco ICE, plenty of things that they don't know about and they would have never heard about. And more importantly, we go through a very rigorous selection process because plenty of people have the wrong idea that it is easy to make money in IT. And that is not getting helped by the fact that plenty of professionals now decided to scam people and tell them that they can turn them into an IT professional earning 6 figures in 4 weeks. And a lot of people fall for that because people are looking for an easy way out, only to find out that you can't become a seasoned IT professional in 4 weeks. You need to take time to learn the technology. You need to be dedicated to that. But so today, in the first episode of the Proof of Concept, as we talk about Cyber Job Alert, what is the takeaway? The takeaway is that the IT and cybersecurity fields have recovered from the big tech layoffs. There are more jobs than there are professionals. Salaries have been increased, and people are earning top dollars. But how do you get into the field? Well, first you need to learn next generation technologies. You need to start with networking. You need to learn networking as this is the foundation for IT and cybersecurity. You need to also learn next generation firewalls. If you have 2 skills that you can learn or that you should learn if you want to enter the IT field, it is networking and next generation firewall, regardless of where you want to go. If you want to be a cybersecurity professional, you shouldn't look into GRC. You need to understand networking and understand next generation firewalls. And you need to dedicate the next 6 months to that. You need to start leveraging AI to perfect your resume and to showcase the new skills that you acquire. That is for the entry-level person. You need to leverage LinkedIn as the place for you to find your first job. But keep in mind as well, while there are many more jobs than there are IT professionals, at the entry level, it is very crowded because everybody's going to enter at the entry level. Don't listen to anyone. Do not listen to anyone who says that you can earn 6-figure in your first job in IT. If you're new to IT, you have never worked a day in your life in IT. This is the first time that you're entering this field. It is more than likely that you're not going to make $100,000. The average salary for an IT worker today is about $102,000. And so if you're getting started, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics suggests that you will be making about $65,000. And I say that within a year or two, you will get very close, if not going over the $100,000 mark. But don't listen to anyone who says over the next 3 months they can show you how to make $100,000 in IT without any experience. It doesn't really work that way. Now, for those who are in the field and who want to grow into a bigger job, If you have been working in IT for 1 or 2 years, I believe you are at the point, and you've been learning hard, you are at the point where you should be making about $100,000. How do you get there? The same advice is true. Deepen your understanding of networking, improve that understanding. And I would recommend 2 certificates to you. For the person who has been working in IT for a year or 2, or even 3 years, you need to have a PCNSA by Palo Alto. That's what shows that you understand next generation firewall. If you know Palo Alto, you likely know how to implement a Fortinet or a Checkpoint as well. You'll have minor differences, but next generation firewalls are about the same. Palo Alto leads the way there. You need to start with the leader. You need to know deep concepts of Cisco routing and switching. Cisco, I mean. If you know Cisco, you can also configure other routers and servers. And you need to demonstrate that skill by earning yourself not a CCNA, but a CCNP, the certificate that shows your routing and switching competency. There is CCNA, that is a combo of a bunch of things. It's not what it used to be. There is CCNP that is subdivided into one core certificate that's called CCNP Encore. And then there are 5 specializations. You choose the specialization that focuses on routing and switching, because what you really need is routing and switching. You don't need to boil the ocean and learn about network programmability, learn about this, about that. No, you need to focus on routing and switching in firewall. The firewall, you need to learn it from Palo Alto. And when you do that, leverage AI to optimize your resume, and leverage LinkedIn to be the place where you find your next job. And if you need any help with that, if you need to get access to our lab, if you need to get access to our cybersecurity and information technology training cohort, the next cohort will start soon, you can send me an email at jared@jareddelval.com or visit magnacyber.academy, where you will learn more about the way we are helping solve the IT skills gap. Folks, I'm going to leave it right there. This is the beginning of the proof of concept. It is a beautiful journey, and I am happy that you're taking the ride with me. If you want to participate, there's room for you. Remember, all you need to do is to send an email to jared@jareddelval.com. We'll invite you when we are recording. You can be an audience member. And if you have something that you can contribute to the conversation, we will make you a guest, where you will help us disseminate quality information to the community. Thank you. Until next time, I'm Jared Delval, and this is my proof of concept.